What's up, Knicks fans? Worldwide Knicks, episode number 50. And because it's the 50th episode, this is also our first video episode. We are making a shift to audio plus video because people might want to see us when we're speaking. Maybe you wondered what we all look like, and here we are. So Omar here alongside Alex and Rafa. First of all, guys, really awesome. This is our 50th episode and also our first episode foraying into video. It's crazy just thinking about all those months ago when we started having those conversations. Rafa started having those conversations with both of us and just talking about, hey, we talk about this stuff on the group chat all the time. Let's parlay that into podcasts. And since then, we've had a lot of great discussions. We've had guests on, hoping to bring more guests on in the future. And it's been a great ride so far. Hoping for another 50 plus episodes. So Alex, Rafa, how you guys doing tonight?
I'm good, thanks, Omar. Yeah, I didn't know it was the video episode before we started, or I would have hung up some kind of Knicks stuff behind me.
It's a work in progress, so is what we're going with here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't want to go too fancy, man.
Yeah. Blood in the Garden's a great start. So Rafa, well done.
Yeah, Rafa's tip top right there with the setup. It's good.
Look at me, man. I've been working on it. Just
slowly but surely. So. Yeah, there you go. Awesome.
I'm waiting for the RJ Barrett pop. Yeah.
Yeah, well, wait for that to actually be made. To be able to get that.
The only Knicks one I can get is Porzingis, and I'm
How terrible is that? That like he's been gone now for quite some time. He's on, a second team after Dallas, and we still can't get anything. Not a Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, something. And even the Derrick Rose, because he's still kind of really revered, that you would think will probably sell a little bit. But let's get right into it, guys. It's been a rough week, a 1-3 week for the team with a blowout win against Golden State, which was great to see. Everything was dropping. Frustrating loss to Pascal Siakam. We dropped 52 for the Raptors at the Garden. So he had his kind of trademark balling at the Garden moment that all the good players seem to have. Then Chicago exacted some revenge against us. They beat us at home as well. And Christmas Day, a loss to Philadelphia, where Joel Embiid and James Harden were unstoppable. George Niang was hitting threes, and so overall, not a great time. And obviously we're looking to bounce back. We have the Texas three-way tour, that kind of every team does. Road games against Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio coming up this week. We'll have game predictions later on during the episode, of course. But first thing I kind of want to talk about is something that happened in the offseason. So when the Knicks signed our point guard, Jalen Brunson, there was a lot of talk, especially from Mavericks fans and the Mavericks themselves, that the Knicks tampered to acquire him. And, we all kind of assume, well, of course they tampered. Tampering is everywhere. But finally, the investigation concluded, and the results were that, yes, the Knicks tampered, and they are going to be fined by losing a second-round draft pick in the 2025 draft, which is their own pick, not a pick that they own that is originally acquired from another team. So I guess the big question for you guys is big deal, not so big deal? How we feel about it?
Well, it's a big deal in the fact that we still got away with robbery on that trade. The fact that you could get Jalen Brunson. Some people mocked that contract at first and said it was too much. The fact
looks like a value now.
Yeah, plus you get him for a second-round pick, a future second-round pick. The tampering thing was kind of funny. That tampering goes on everywhere, as you said, Omar, right. But Knicks really took it to the next level. I think this is elite tampering, but yeah, they did everything they could to just say that, oh, look, we don't give a shit, and we're getting our guy, and it worked. And the fact that we've only had to give up a second round pick, I was amazed. I was actually going to ask you last week, Omar, about what was happening with that. It had gone quiet for such a long time. I didn't know if there was an update on it, and then the news dropped, and I couldn't believe it. So yeah, I
As
think
you
they let
asked,
us off. I
because
think
you
they let
asked.
us off one. Hmm?
It was because you asked, Alex. Thanks for
Yeah,
the second round
There you
pick.
go.
We
There you
lost.
go. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
that's it.
I would do it 100 times out of 100 because we
Sure.
got a player in Jalen Brunson. And
Right.
imagine a trade where the Knicks traded their second round pick in way down the line for Jalen Brunson. That's a steal. That's nothing.
Mhm.
So every team will still tamper. They're not scared of losing a second round pick for a player they think it's an upgrade for their team. So to me, it doesn't make sense, doesn't it? I mean, what's a second round pick for a guy who's starting at point guard or whatever? I mean, every team will do this because the second round,
Mhm.
and so the team that gets hurt actually gets nothing. If they got the second round pick or the whatever, it would make sense. To me, it would make more sense. But okay, it's Dallas didn't want him to pay him enough. That doesn't matter here. But the player walked or went to another team, and they still didn't get nothing. They didn't get a pick, anything. So to me, it doesn't make much sense picking a second round pick from a team. Uh, I would still
We
do
really
it.
shouldn't
The Knicks
cry.
would still do it. I mean,
We shouldn't cry over getting one over Dallas. To be fair, like especially Mark Cuban. Anytime you can make him look a fool, then all for it.
Yeah, the funny thing about it, guys, is like like you guys said, what's a second round pick to this team ultimately? So you're looking at if they're middle of the pack like they have been this year. Well, you're looking at a pick in like the low 40s or high 40s, excuse me. And that's nothing for a guy who's averaging 20 points a game who has all-star potential. And again, we would do that 100 times out of 100. I'm very happy that he's the point guard of this basketball team. But the bigger point that I kind of have been thinking about is, I mean, this just further proves that tampering is inevitable. This league is so worried about, I think, post LeBron and D Wade and Bosh to Miami, this collusion to kind of stack the deck for one team over another, and they're so focused on parity. And I just think they're just petrified by it because your small market teams are the ones that fear this, right? They fear players talking, players and GMs and agents talking, and kind of figuring some sort of alliances out. Like if you're, a team like Oklahoma City or Orlando or something like that that doesn't typically get free agents, then you might be worried like, oh, this is going to be the norm. We're never going to retain our guys. We're never going to be able to do anything. And so the illusion of tampering fines and it being a big deal is something like, in my view, the biggest punishment would be a first round pick. But do you guys think that the league would ever go that far to dock a team for maybe a first or multiple first round picks?
I think we
Yeah,
should.
absolutely. As I said, it's although I said it's about as blatant as it gets what the Knicks did. It was also quite hard to prove, and I guess just with the family ties thing, how can you actually stop a father talking to his son?
They did
About
make
his
a
career.
very big point about that, saying, the
Yeah,
Rick Brunson connection had nothing to do with it. Who knows how truthful that is?
yeah,
But, you would hope that they wouldn't find a kid talking to his father, right?
yeah.
Regardless of the
But
situation.
well, yeah, it's especially one that's so connected to his career as a whole. So,
Right.
but no, I guess if the team was that blatant, I don't know, they got kind of audio messages, they got I don't know texts, emails, or something that was blatantly talking about it. Then, they've already they cancelled that trade, didn't they? The Bogdanovich one
Yep.
before. So yeah, why wouldn't they take first round picks away, for instance? I think they would definitely be capable of it.
Think it should. Well, there's restricted free agents, and if you get a restricted free agent, you will need to give up a pick. I don't. I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm confusing the sport because I know in the NHL, restricted free agents, it depends on the contracts you give out. It's like a big contract, big time player. You give out like 2 or
It's
3
like
first round
compensatory
picks.
picks or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't think that exists with the NBA. Like you have a time to match, and if you don't match, the guy walks. So
I think they do a lot of
maybe,
sign and trades now, right, Rafa? Where they'll do
yeah,
something
man.
just to kind of play ball with the other team. Remember, with Brunson, there was even rumors about a sign and trade. Ultimately, it
Yeah.
never happened, but yeah.
But even a sign and trade, like if the team knows they're okay, we tampered. It's a second
Mhm.
round pick. Do we need that second round pick that badly? That we need to get a sign and trade where they want Mitchell Robinson? No, second round pick. Bye. But what's funny to me, in a few years ago, there was a 2K game, NBA 2K, where there was tampering. Like, so you
Oh, it's part of
finished
the
your
game.
season, dude. You finished your season, and you're I'm going into free agency. I need to pick
Right.
the team I want to whatever day it is,
Yeah.
and you get 3 or 4 cutscenes when there's players from other teams coming into your home to try and get you to play with them. That's tampering in the game, so they know it exists. They know what happens. Like what? So it's frustrating. Yeah, like if you want teams to be scared, actually be scared.
Mhm.
Actually do something scary, like take away the first. Brunson is a good deal. He's on a big contract. So yeah, for the next 2 years, you won't get a first and 2 seconds. Teams will go, okay, a first and 2 seconds. Higher it goes as
It's a
contract
lot. Yeah.
wise. Oh, bye. Contract wise, just more picks. So yeah, my throat is very very sore. So pardon me for the
Yeah, you have
feel
to
like a
pardon
teenager.
Rafa. He was yelling at the TV yesterday every time James Harden flopped for every three attempts. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure
No,
that was the
it's
case.
still no, it's still from the Bulls game and every RJ Barrett shot. Zing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it's to wrap that up, guys. I mean, obviously tampering is going to happen. The Knicks are going to tamper in the future. Every other NBA team is going to tamper in the future. It should be interesting though to see how the league polices it or attempts to police it moving forward. In this age of social media, there's nothing really you can do. Like the players are going to talk to one another in one way or another. And I think about like in my own job, I talk to people from other companies and in my same field all the time. Like, just imagine if like you had your regular job and tampering rules applied. I think that'd be kind of funny to kind of make that corollary. Um,
Just one
but
final thing, Omar. Sorry,
yeah,
I was just going to say there's so many agents now in the front office as well, and
oh yeah, we're one of them, right?
you know,
Got Leon there.
well, exactly. So these guys are going to be they've got all the back channels and all the kind of relationships in the game, so they know exactly what they're doing. So
Yeah, it's only going to
um,
increase. I mean, you got Palinka, over there in LA.
mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if Rich Paul gets a front office job eventually. LeBron's agent. So, yeah, it's inevitable. You're going to see more of it. You're going to see a lot of this moving forward, and the league has to figure out where it really stands on tampering before it really establishes a proper policy to try to curb it. But the next thing I kind of want to talk about here is something that you brought up, Alex, in our group chat, which is team looking a little fatigued down the stretches in these games. Obviously the team has shifted to a 9-man rotation. The other night we saw both Brunson and Grimes brick free throws down the stretch, cost the game. So I guess is this fatigue level that we might be seeing at the one game we saw RJ play 46 minutes? Is this stuff like this cause for concern for us moving forward down the stretch of the year as we attempt to maintain positioning for the playoff and the play-in?
I think it's a kind of double edged sword a wee bit. I mean, it's worked for us that this 9-man rotation, this heavy minutes thing, it's worked for us on the winning streak. In the fact that if they saying it's brought the squad together. It's It's just made everything run a bit kind of smoother, and everybody's tighter and stuff like that. So, but then again, there's going to be a downside to that, and fatigue's just going to be normal. And the way that Tibbs teams play, they're so kind of intense, especially on the defensive end, that fatigue's going to be a factor. And it was only natural. So, I think there's other reasons in the last few games that have gone down to it, but the fact we've been winning all these games up until kind of late in the game, and it's just they've just kind of fizzled out, and definitely those missed free throws can be down to a bit of pressure as well. Certainly from Grimes' perspective, Grimes looked terrified when he was shooting those free throws, and you knew fine well he was going to miss. The Brunson ones were a wee bit more surprising, but
agreed.
I think a lot of it comes down to that, we've been banged on about this for so long about how the Knicks don't have stars and stuff, but then, like the Christmas Day game, you could just see that, at some point Harden and Embiid were just like, look, we're just going to take over this game, and they looked like they were going to score every time they came up the court in that fourth quarter. They just looked like they were getting everything they want, and they were so relaxed, so confident. And that's what these guys can do in pressure situations. They can just take the team home. And I think there was a wee bit of that as well. But fatigue's definitely a factor at the moment. Mental fatigue as well as physical as well. It's just such an up and down season, and I think there's so much going on with the roster at the moment that I think it's playing a factor for sure.
I think a bigger issue, other than they'll bring heavy minutes. Okay, they're young. I mean, just play. It's not about the minutes they play. It's and you guys talked about it last week, and we all over Twitter that even on a group chat, like their style of play, really New York, that gritty defensive play and banging the body
takes a toll.
Yeah, exactly. To me, that's the big issue. Like you look at Brunson, every game he's like limping out or something. So it takes a toll on the body. And if you're
real quick
not
about
feeling
Brunson,
100%,
Rafa, I mean, do you think that they should consider, maybe benching him a couple games, have him sit out a couple games just to kind of rejuvenate a little? I know he would probably never sign on for that because he's just that type of player. He wants to play every game. If he can walk, he's going to try and play. But it seems like these little nagging injuries have him leaving in games for stretches. I mean, do we think that maybe you kind of just throw in quickly to start in for a game or two, and then bring Brunson back after that?
I don't think that's going to be a solution. I think that a part of it is having, and we've seen that, having RJ having more of the ball, creating the offense or starting the offense, and that playing Brunson a little bit more off ball helps him rest a bit instead of holding the ball. Like that's the way Randall can do it if people hate it, but Randall can do it. RJ is apparently developing that part as well. And
that's why you have these three guys, right? They could all take turns.
Yeah, even you can bring on Quickly to do it, and he's been doing it somewhat. Shout out to Quickly. He's been playing. To me, I think he's been playing very well in that off-ball role with the first unit. I think he's been solid with that, and his shot is appeared again. But I think Brunson, like you mentioned, Brunson's gonna play. If you tell you should rest Brunson with a broken leg, like no, I'm good, limping on the court. I think he's that type of player. So I think they look tired at the end of the game. It's of all the defensive intensity and offensive intensity we put into the game, and it's when you're winning, you don't feel tired at all. When you lose, that tiredness creeps in. That's the only issue for me.
I want to piggyback off of that point real quick, Rafa. I really think, yes, it's being fatigued. A lot of these players are getting minutes they didn't previously get, so they have to acclimate. Just like when a player gets drafted out of college, in the middle of the first year, they kind of hit a wall because they're only used to playing 30 games and then 30 to 40 games, and you're asked to play 82. I think you're having a similar situation where Deuce McBride, Quentin Grimes are used to playing, lighter minutes, and now you're doubling and sometimes tripling their minutes load. That's going to take some adjustment. And I think a lot of this stuff is, to me, feels like the ups and downs that come with a young roster. We've talked about it before.
Mm-hmm.
The oldest player in the rotation is Julius Randle right now. He's 28. You got a lot of guys in their early 20s figuring stuff out, figuring out the league. Again, I use the Deuce and Grimes example. Those are the guys that are really still kind of getting it together. Jericho Sims and Obi Toppin when he gets back, those are guys still figuring out the league, and to me, that's really the takeaway from here. I know a lot of people, anytime it's a team looks tired and they're coached by Tom Thibodeau, immediately it's like, oh, Thibodeau minutes, all this stuff. He's overworking his players. But you look at these guys, Julius's minutes are down year over year. I think he's averaging like 34. RJ, I think, leads the team in minutes. He's averaging about 35 or 36. If I'm not, I don't know if you have that up, Rafa, but it's not like any of these guys are even coming close to playing 40 minutes regularly. Yes, there's an off night where maybe due to foul situations, one person creeps up to a higher minute total. But I really do think this is a young team thing, more getting used to the stresses and and understanding how to play in crunch time, as opposed to just like, oh, they're getting overworked. And now, granted, the energy exerted defensively is a factor. I'm not taking that away, but I just think there's just a young team's growing pains at this point.
Has any other team played more back-to-backs than the Knicks? Feels ridiculous.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Look at this. The last 6 games, they were all back-to-backs. Back-to-back, few minutes, a few games, no, didn't play, back-to-back, a few minutes, back-to-back again. Like, the game against the Sixers, it was the end of a back-to-back. The game against the Raptors, the same. That's where the fatigue crept in. So many back-to-backs. I don't understand this. So
yeah, I mean, that's NBA scheduling for you, though, right? It's not always fair. That's I would be interested to see like who leads the league in scheduled back-to-backs, or I think there's like a metric. I can't remember who developed it, but there's a metric for schedule difficulty based on frequency of play and strength of opponent. And I am curious to see where the Knicks rank on that list, because it does seem that way, yeah.
The website that Chris Herring works for now, I know they do a lot of stats like that. They do a lot of kind of real kind of in-depth kind of statistics, like something a wee bit different, but is it 538?
538, yeah, 538. Yeah. So I guess, would you guys just say then a lot of this is just maybe it's scheduling, maybe it's a young team, that's the issue with the fatigue conversation, right? You immediately assume it's overexertion of minutes when it's not even close to being that. And I am curious to see how this team is going to function when Obi gets back, because offensively, this bench unit now is really kind of struggling in moments when both Hartenstein and Sims are on the floor. I mean, defensively, it's good, because the two bigs who kind of clog up the middle. But offensively, you're so limited. You end up with a really bad ISO jump shot or just not a lot of dynamic offensive play. And so I'm curious to see how that looks. I would assume once Obi is back into the lineup, we would see him slide into that backup 4 spot, obviously, and Sims probably be relegated to the bench, and then you just roll in with Hartenstein. But I don't know. I'm kind of curious how that's going to go.
I've seen it quite a lot. I mean, obviously the bench unit's a real concern at the moment, and a lot of people put that down to the fact that Obi's not there. But I think it's as much to do with lacking a kind of fully functioning Derrick Rose as well, just to kind of lead that unit. That bench unit, and so his lack of any kind of form or presence at all I think is really hurting the bench unit at all. So I think that's a bigger deal at the moment.
All right, so let's shift gears a little bit, guys, into everybody's favorite topic, which are potential Knicks trade rumors. So it feels like almost every other day, there's a new trade on the horizon. Somebody wants out of their current situation or rumored to be wanting out of their current situation. And of course, the Knicks are always involved, whether that's kind of a Knicks for clicks thing, or there's any legitimacy to the rumors. So I figured it'd be fun to kind of go through each one. If we think that they're actually available, and if the Knicks should go after them, and types of packages that would be needed. So, obviously we just played Toronto the other day. Big player with them that has been on the rumor to be a trade target acquisition for a lot of teams is OG Anunoby. And my takeaway on this one, guys, is you really, as a team, need to figure out what is your opinion of this starting group that you have. You just signed Brunson in the offseason. You just re-signed RJ. You still have Julius on the books for a few more years. You just signed Mitchell Robinson. So 4 out of your 5 guys in your starting rotation, you've committed big money to and years to. Grimes obviously still on his rookie deal. So if you trade for OG Anunoby, that basically is saying, well, I don't believe in the starting unit anymore. We got to shake some things up. So that's my hesitancy. I just feel like we have to see we don't really know what the ceiling of this starting unit is right now. We got to give them a whole year, I feel like. So do you guys buy into any sort of interest in OG Anunoby, and are the Knicks even in play to get him if Toronto decides to deal him before the deadline?
I think he would be a fantastic signing if you could get him. Been banging on about the fact that we need somebody that can play multiple positions. We need somebody at the wing position that can defend, that it can also provide offensive productivity, and he just fits the bill perfectly. I know before Rafa joined us, we were talking about them talking about on the low post, who's Zach Lowe is about as reliable as it gets. He's very connected. Very fantastic podcast that he's got, but his actual quote was saying that everybody wants OG Anunoby. If he ever gets traded, the price and pricks are going to surprise people because it might be on par for Donovan Mitchell. So be careful.
And he's not that kind of player. He's like, not that kind of player.
It's baffling to me. It's baffling to me.
Yeah. But also, you're talking about a guy that can do it all. He's points per game. He's 18.9 points per game. Fantastic defender. Really reliable. And he's still on a really good contract. He's 25 as well. Why shouldn't a player like that can give you everything be as valuable as a Donovan Mitchell, who's a bit more flashy?
I thought you were about to talk about timeline for a second there, Alex. You said he was 25.
No, that was last week.
That's the last mention. Yeah, for sure.
No, yeah. No. It's a kind of the kind of, I guess, casuals to the sport might just always see the flashy players, the dunkers, the highlight plays and things, and think those are the guys that are most valuable. But I guess if you're building a team, you in a front office, you've got a smart front office, you see somebody like Anunoby and you're like, well, is he as valuable as Donovan Mitchell to this roster if the fit's right? And the answer is yes, but it would be a very brave front office if they were to give up the kind of haul for.
So what do you see as a appropriate price tag to get him?
Well, when we're talking about the Donovan Mitchell haul, they're talking about the Cavs, what the Cavs gave up. What they actually wanted from the Knicks is obviously ridiculous. So I think there's 2 different thought processes there. I think it would obviously take a lot. And if we're thinking about the Raptors and that they're in a slightly precarious position at the moment, and are they going to, as the phrase goes, blow it up and start back through the draft again, which they're very good at, then it's going to take a lot of our first round picks that are going to get them, whether it's protected or not, whether it's Knicks picks or the other ones. I think it's going to be primarily about those.
There's also the Masai Ujiri aspect, right? He's going to try and fleece the Knicks as much as he can, going back to the Bargnani deal.
And it's why we didn't get Kyle Lowry as well. Remember, because Dolan didn't want fleeced twice by the Raptors. So Yeah, maybe that's still hanging on. Maybe after all this time, Dolan's finally forgiven him. But yeah, it's just the price you have to pay. We talked about how we got a bargain for Brunson, but this is what you have to pay to get these top guys. And you're talking about a wing player that can do it all. They're the most valuable players in the league as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, he's maybe not the best at his position, but he's still incredibly valuable, I think so.
Rafa, what you got?
The only way you get a guy like OG Anunoby into your team, or any wing player like OG Anunoby, you're getting rid of either RJ Barrett or Quentin Grimes. There's no way you can get all three. So,
facts, yeah.
Get this clear. You don't. It's very difficult in this league. You'll get a guy who won't come off your bench. There's no way he's coming off the bench. None of the guys mentioned around Twitter will come off the bench.
Right.
So you need to get someone out of that rotation or even out of that team.
Mm-hmm.
And if not both, if the Raptors don't say, yeah, we want Grimes and RJ, you get an Anunoby. We want Grimes and RJ. It's plausible. Is he better than both? I don't think so. But that's me. I'm an RJ guy, so you know me. But
I think if you're the Knicks, you want RJ with Anunoby from a defensive perspective.
But you want Grimes.
Well, that's who you got to give up. I feel like that's
The thing with me is a guy like OG Anunoby is if he's getting traded, he's like, okay, it's my time to shine.
He wants a
bigger role. In Toronto. Yeah, of course. How are you gonna get a bigger role if you're next to RJ, to Brunson, and Julius, and Randall? It's the old argument. There's only one ball.
Yeah.
It's the old argument. It's the oldest in the book. But a guy like OG will want to be, okay, upstate, up north, they gave it to Siakam. They traded me instead. So I'm going to show them. I'm going to be the guy. So I don't know. Does he, if he would fit with the Knicks? Yeah, sure, but not now.
You got to trade one of your three is the thing. You'd have to trade one of your three. Mm-hmm. And Grimes,
yeah, that's it.
And quickly, and some picks. So that's the thing, right? It's a big.
People are sleeping. I think every team will try to get Jericho Sims out of the Knicks. By the way, it's like,
who
wouldn't want to have Jericho Sims right there, because he's a guy. He's
looked great.
You can build still.
He's looked so good. I mean,
exactly.
If I'm being honest, guys, if I'm talking about backup centers. I currently value Jericho over Hartenstein personally. I just feel like his skill set hasn't really been unlocked by this team, so whereas Jericho's has because of the Mitch element, right? Because he's kind of like another version of Mitch in terms of what he can do well and what he can't do well. With OG Anunoby, it all comes down to what do you want to do with this starting lineup? How highly do you value Grimes at your shooting guard position? Because if you're trading for him, he's gone, whether it's through trade or he's like relegated back to the bench or whatever the case may be. And, this was a guy who allegedly held back the Donovan Mitchell trade, but you're going to bring in OG Anunoby. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me from that perspective. I'm sorry, Alex, I think I cut you off. What were you saying?
No, I was going to ask you another question about Hartenstein, but if you, it's just you were quite big on Hartenstein before he came to the Knicks.
I mean, he's a connecting center. Yeah, it's just
I'm just wondering if you thought he'd been used correctly. Is he what you kind of were expecting? Is he?
There are moments where he looks great, like where he's like making outlet passes. He's being a connector, shooting corner threes a little bit, here and there. But it just feels like the more often than not, he looks a little lost in the offense and the flow of things. And I think a big part of that is the way we play offense, right? It's not really conducive to a guy like him. I think if they're able to kind of scheme around it to unlock him more, then you would get more production out of him. But there are nights where Hartenstein is incredibly frustrating. And then there are nights where he's making long outlet passes to Deuce McBride in transition, and he looks great. And I mean, I guess that's the reality of a backup center, but it's I
what is
do
asked
kind
of
of
him?
think, yeah, that's
Sorry,
the thing, right?
just what is asked of him on defense? I mean, he can't do that. It's not his
It's not him.
style. He's not a defensive center. Don't try and ask him to play like Mitch or Jericho. He's gonna get toasted.
His signing almost
It
feels
is.
like a lack of vision and cohesion between the front office and the coach. Because we know Tom Thibodeau wants some level of rim protection on defense for 48 minutes a night. He gets that with Mitch and Jericho Sims. You don't get that with Mitch and Isaiah Hartenstein, right? That to me is the biggest issue, where there's like a little bit of a disconnect between the two entities, and that's kind of the issue.
The big thing I was praising at the time was the fact that when we'd given up Noel was too similar to Mitch, and what Hartenstein brought was something a little bit different. But what he's disappointed me in was that the promise that he had a solid 3-point shot. His 3-point shot every now and again, as you say, corner threes, okay, but his shot looks terrible. Most of the time, it was not what I expected.
We don't play to it.
Yeah,
we don't play to it as well. We want him to get offensive rebounds. Well, he doesn't do that.
It's not him doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what this team has really relied on with both Jericho Sims and Mitchell Robinson. So that becomes a disconnect. But let's move on to a player again we just saw yesterday. Tobias Harris with the 76ers, obviously kind of I would say fourth fiddle now to Embiid, Harden, and Maxey, right? So a lot of rumors about him being made available. A lot of rumors about the front office really liking Tobias Harris's game. Do you guys see the Knicks making a deal for Tobias?
It's been a long-rumored one, isn't it? Just with the New York connection.
Yep.
To me,
that damn New York connection, man. Always gets us.
Here we go again.
Every player's connected.
Oh, I know. But he's always just seemed that kind of steady guy that's been way overpaid. He'd be a lovely kind of fourth, fifth guy in the team, but he's not really more than that. He's always seemed quite a kind of low IQ player. It doesn't really, his shot is pretty solid. Just he's never a player you can get excited about. You don't really see him being really elite at anything. But he gets paid like a second, maybe third option. And it's I would certainly. I don't know how many years he's got left in his deal, but it's not
like the Harrison Barnes corollary, man. It's like he's good, but not great. And you're the cap number's big. And again, if you're bringing him in, you're shaking up the starting lineup, because I highly doubt Tobias Harris is coming off any bench right now.
No,
especially
that's
with how
what
much
I was
he's
asking.
Paid. Yeah,
that's what I was asking.
He doesn't seem he doesn't seem like a ball handler, though. To me, he seems.
No, he's not. He's catch and shoot.
A bit more, So from that respect, the Knicks need shooting. They don't need another ball handler. So I mean, there is a fit there, I suppose. But I'm just trying to think of positives.
Alex being optimistic. What's going on over here? Is this a New Year's resolution? What's happening?
He would fit better than Zach LaVine. Put it that way. I know it's a low bar, but
I agree with that.
I any of us would fit better than Zach LaVine. There you go. That's it. To be fair, Tobias Harris, he's a big body. He's a guy who can play some defense. So that's a guy who would help in that regard. But I'm not trading for a 37 million off the bench. It's like no. And 40 next year, because he has this year and next year. So
it's still guaranteed
40 million to pull off the bench. No.
Massively overpaid player. He's like one of those guys. He was this before he got to Philly when he was in Detroit, where you're on a bad team, you're just getting buckets on a bad team, big contract, so that they can avoid the salary floor. Like, so a team like Charlotte, a team like Houston or something like that, who has a lot of young guys, you bring him in and he's kind of that guy to kind of fill up some salary, get some points, whatever the case may be. And the Knicks, right, again, it just comes back to the starting lineup thing. You trade for Tobias. You got to fill that salary in somewhere. Like everybody was like, oh, we'll just trade Evan Fournier and Derrick Rose and whatever these guys who were out of the rotation. I'm like, think about if you're like Alex, you do this all the time. Like, if you're Philly, why do you accept that? Like, why do I take a worse version of Tobias Harris and an old backup point guard? It's just, why do I want that? If I'm Philly and I'm giving up one of my big time players, if I'm trying to make the finals right now.
Yeah, especially if the Tobias Harris contract will end next year, at the end of next year. So if he had a 4-year deal still, I would see them going for that deal because Fournier is expiring, RJ's not RJ, oh my God, Rose is expiring as well. So I could see that, but there's no point in.
All right, so it looks like all of us are a firm no on Tobias. So we're not even going to discuss packages. The last one is a fun one to me. So this one kind of sprouted out from a tweet that Jalen Brunson liked, and it kind of, Knicks Twitter did its thing. Imagine in the 90s, guys, if Reggie Miller was a Knick instead of a Pacer after everything he did to them. Well, that's what we're talking about now. Trae Young,
Wait. Before you go, we go into Trae Young, can you imagine Reggie Miller playing with Patrick Ewing?
It feels like blasphemy.
I mean,
yeah.
It feels like championship as well.
We win Game 7 against the Rockets if we have Reggie Miller on that team. Obviously, I mean, there's no denying that, right? Yeah. So
something to cry about. Something to cry.
Yeah. I mean, that was the folly of Patrick's career, right? Never had a proper number 2. To take the scoring load off of him, and because Starks was so inconsistent. Reggie Miller, top 3 at worst shooter of all time. That would have
Reggie Miller could play in this current roster for the moment the way we shoot. I think we could find
we could find 10 minutes for him every night, right? He'd be all right.
Spark off the bench.
He's old, so Tibbs would play him.
There we go. Hey man, we're just talking about how young the rotation is, Rafa. Come on, man.
No, I'm joking. It's just a little jab. No. No Tibbs hate.
Let's talk a little Trae Young. I know a lot of Knicks fans don't like him because of what happened in the playoffs a couple years ago, and he's like really embraced that guard and villain type thing. But man, the guy could score points. He could score points. He's a great passer. He's excellent floor general. The issue obviously becomes he just signed Jalen Brunson, and so how I can't even imagine what a backcourt with him and Trae would look like from a defensive perspective. That would just be a nightmare, And I mean, and again, if you look at Atlanta right now, they brought in a point guard by trade to play with them. It hasn't really worked out so great so far with DeJounte Murray from the Spurs. So wouldn't we just be setting up for the same thing? But the other part of me is just like envisioning, like first round of the playoffs, Trae Young bringing it off the court and just wetting a 30-footer at the Garden. It's just like how amazing that would be. And selfishly, of course, I want that, but I just can't. If we're talking about 2-3 players, 3-4 picks for OG Anunoby, I don't even want to know what the cost of Trae Young would be. A legitimate superstar point guard. Like OG, you think he's could be something. Trae Young is that right now, right? And you thought the Donovan Mitchell package was bad. I mean, that's what it would be plus some if you wanted Trae Young. Because I don't know how willing the Hawks would be to even play ball with the Knicks on that one. Obviously, they had the Cam trade last year, but Trae Young's a whole nother stratosphere. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on the DeJounte Murray, I mean, Murray's obviously known as a pretty elite defensive guard as well. You would have thought the fit was absolutely perfect there. So that would be a real concern why that's not worked so far. But I mean, I'm in the tiny minority. I've mentioned before that absolutely love Trae Young, and especially after as much as it hurt me for weeks and weeks after that playoff series. You've got to admire the guy that can come and just take a bow in the Garden.
Baller can ball, Rafa. I see you shaking your head.
I know, man. It's true. Oh no, it's true.
We've said many times.
I'm shaking my head.
There's not
Sorry,
enough
I'm just
shithousery in the league. There's not enough like proper evil characters in the league and rivalries and all that kind of stuff. It's
You would
missing in the
think
league at the
Knicks
moment.
fans would embrace that, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
he's just gonna
totally.
talk shit to everybody that comes into the guard.
The guy had for what, five straight games had the whole crowd shouting "fuck Trae Young," and the guy just takes a bow in the garden and everybody goes mental about it, and you're like,
theater. Yeah,
you're like, well, I think he's maybe due like a little bit back at the fans. Do you know? I think he deserves. He's earned it. So yeah, but yeah, as a player, yeah, I love him, and again, we've talked many times about the fact that there's very few players in the league that can play at elite level, both sides of the court. Yeah, his defense is one of the worst in the league, and that's obviously a worry when we see how somebody like Kemba fitted into the Tibbs system and the Knicks system. You know, and I know they're different players, but you know, somebody that's that focused on one side of the ball, but you're like, can it really work in this system? Yeah, I mean, you'd obviously like to try if you had the opportunity, but you'd have to completely gut the whole roster to do it. And yeah, if it doesn't work out, then we're in real shit. So yeah, it would be a tough one to call, but yeah, I'd love to see it, but I don't think it will ever happen, to be honest.
Before you go, Rafa, yeah. I want to ask Alex. Let's say the trade can happen. What are you offering Atlanta to facilitate this?
Oh God.
Like it's got to be three players plus a boatload of picks, right? I mean, that has to be it.
I mean, what's the record for number of first rounders? I don't know. What's I don't know. One of the Clippers deals, I think maybe was the record for first rounds traded.
I'm pretty sure the Gobert deal came close.
Yeah, possibly something like that. But
terrible.
I mean, yeah, it would start at something like five first rounders unprotected or something like that, you know. And as you say, probably three players.
Who are the players?
But again, yeah, you're talking about maybe at least two starters out the Knicks starters. I would say maybe a functioning bench player, plus maybe five unprotected first rounders. You know, it'd be a massive
haul. Yeah. What you got, Rafa?
That trade would happen. First of all, we would all go crazy because it was Trae Young and it was like, what the fuck are we supposed to feel now? What are we going to do with our chants and feelings and all? I would never wanted to see it happen with a backcourt with Brunson and Trae Young.
Yeah,
because I mean I like defense, so
sure.
Yeah. If that trade was to happen, I would consider adding another pick so they could take Brunson, like instead of I don't know any other player, like because the fit with Brunson and Trae Young wouldn't be great. It would be terrible. It would be a great fit to have Trae Young, RJ Barrett, and Julius Randle. I think that fit would be great because
I think you have to keep Mitch in any circumstance if you're bringing in Trae because you need a rim runner to accompany him the same way they have Capella over there in Atlanta.
Yeah, no team. I don't think any team wants to. If they're trading with the Knicks, I don't think Mitch is an option.
Sure.
Okay, Mitch is not a guy we can use, like to win. Like
real quick, guys. This thought just came to me. Imagine a starting backcourt. We call it the heat check backcourt of Trae and Quickly. Either guy liable to shoot from 30 feet at any given time. It'd be magnificent.
One hits them. Only one hits them, by the way.
Only one hits. Yeah.
I mean, if we could manage to do that trade, I mean, it would be similar situation for Trae Young in Atlanta. But Randall to me is a better version of John Collins because, and RJ is now a more
Hunter.
Yeah, more mature in a way as well. Like, can you imagine even Randall, RJ penetrating and having Trae Young, hey, I'm open here. Pass me the ball so I can shoot wide open
Yeah, it's
threes.
never gonna happen.
Yeah, well, great, do it. I mean, it would, but I don't think we would have get that trade and keep RJ. So I think any big trade we want to make, RJ is gone. If only if the guy Trae Young gets into a Ben Simmons situation with the Sixers, and even then the Sixers had to give up much to get Harden and to throw Simmons away, like a big mess. So only a situation like that would you keep your best talent available.
Yeah, Trae seems like a pipe dream more than anything. Be honest, guys.
Yeah,
I have a really hard
absolutely.
time seeing Atlanta actually looking to deal him unless he formally requests a trade. Which I mean, you never know. Things could go sideways, and he might, want out or whatever. But it goes back to our tampering discussion. This all started by a like tweet by Jalen Brunson. This is the NBA. This is how it is. You don't. It's not even just like, oh, two colleagues just like thinking about what if or whatever. Everything has to be connected. Like, oh, they're talking. It's all KD and Kyrie's fault. Let's be honest. This is
How
all.
is
This is
that
all their
tampering?
fault.
How is even that tampering? It's
Yeah,
like,
you know how these guys are, man. And I think ultimately, guys, when it's all said and done and the trade deadline comes, I really feel like the priority for the team has to be getting rid of Cam and getting rid of Fournier. That is what the focus should be, and that it should probably be for a rotation wing player who could play some defense. That's what they need. That's really it.
absolutely.
You want to get a rotation wing to take some of the pressure off of RJ when he's so that he doesn't have to feel like he has to come right back into the game. That's what the team needs ultimately. And everybody,
A
Knicks
bigger
Twitter
wing.
loves to, yeah, Knicks Twitter loves to fantasize about high level players making an impact. Like we have the starting lineup is the starting lineup. So unless you really want to blow it up and bring somebody else in, then you just you're basically adding for depth and getting rid of negative assets right now, which are guys who are making money and not contributing in any meaningful way.
Omar,
But
sorry, just before you continue, I had a quick look. I'd have to do a bit more research, but apparently Harden was traded to Brooklyn for 3 unprotected picks, 1 protected pick, and 4 pick swaps. So
Yeah.
no,
oh, just from Houston to Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, so possibly.
So it's either fuck them picks or you hold on to them for dear life, right? You got to pick a lane
So
here.
you think that Trae Young is at the same level as Harden was at the time?
No, because Harden
Okay.
was an MVP at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It wasn't. He was probably a notch below, but Trae Young is, I would say, on par with Donovan Mitchell, right? So
It's
all
no
the Donovan
disrespect.
Mitchell trades we were throwing out there, that's yeah, I think he's higher than Donovan Mitchell personally. Yeah, like I value Trae higher than I do Donovan, but
I mean, it's
um,
no
yeah,
disrespect to Trae Young, but in Atlanta, he has one deep playoff run. The rest of the seasons are.
I
I
mean,
mean,
going to the
is it
conference
all
finals
the
is nothing to
team?
poo poo. I mean, that's still pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm saying not hating, but the other seasons were a bit. Is it what? Is it because of John Collins? Because of Clint Capella? Because of Hunter Harder? They tried everything to build around him.
Yeah,
So
results matter. That's fair.
not
That's
shitting on
fair.
him. Not shitting on
Yeah,
Trae Young, by the way.
that's fair. I mean, we'll see if anything happens. I think if they do try to acquire him, it's not happening till the off season anyway. This isn't like a trade deadline deal. Personally, that's in my
No.
view. I don't think that's the case. Let's look at this week. We kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. So, doing this Texas road trip this week as we close out the year and head into the new year. So a game on Tuesday against Dallas, then games against Houston and San Antonio. So obviously a potential revenge game after Dallas embarrassed the Knicks a couple weeks ago at the Garden, heading back to their place. So what do you guys think? How is the team going to do this week?
I was going to. I was
no, not 0-3.
No, no.
3-0, yeah.
3-0. I'm like, oh no.
No, not
You think
0-3,
we're gonna be
man.
Houston and
No.
San Antonio? What's going on?
No, the other way around.
Oh my gosh!
I was gonna mention this at the
Calm
start.
down.
Like I think a week or so ago, I'd said, these streaks, I know winning streaks are great, but we've all followed the Knicks long enough to know that a crisis is just around the corner and quite possibly could lose 7 or 8
Disaster
in
is
a row
imminent.
as well. So never get too high, never get too low. And
course,
so although I'm going to stay positive, the team has been playing well. It's not as if we've been getting blown out and these last 3 games and been totally blown up. So it's it's on the road, but we played well on the road this season. So I'm going 2-1. Although I'm a wee bit unsure about which one's the loss, but I don't know if I'm allowed to get away with not saying. But if I had to pick one, probably the Mavs. Again, Doncic is playing out his mind at the moment, so yeah, I'll go there.
Oh, did you guys see Christian Wood yesterday?
Yeah.
He looked great. Yeah, he played Hardaway played really well.
He's starting
also.
as well, wasn't he?
Yes,
he doesn't
he's
start
in the
many games,
lineup
but he's starting now. So
yeah,
Frank's back as well.
Theo Pinson getting meaningful
3-0,
rotation moments over there. 3-0. That's what you got.
It's 3-0. Losing to the Rockets and the Spurs is come on, don't win the games you need to win. And I'm demanding a revenge game against the Mavs. I demand that every Knicks player cooks Tim Hardaway Jr. Being a bum. For nothing, being a bum at the Garden. Cook him, dunk on him, do everything.
You saying he was a bum as a Knick? Is that what you were trying to tell me?
No.
Okay.
The bum at the Garden last game.
Oh, when he was making all the shots.
My house,
okay.
man. Fuck you. You got booted twice. Just I demand that the team show some pride against the Mavs and goes all out. Beat the Mavs. They gotta beat the Mavs. It's imperative to me. It's the only thing. It's like, okay. What?
I was just gonna say, if we can guarantee one thing, it's got the game against Dallas is going to be an improvement on the last game. I think that's.
I mean, you guys saw they did the same shit to the Lakers yesterday they did to us. They dropped 50 in the third.
Yeah. I know. I always go for the surefire bets and who's going to do this, that, and the other. But I think we're going to do better against the Mavs than the last time. That's my sending it out there. One this week.
There you go.
I demand better. I demand better.
I think, guys. I think it's going 2-1 as well. I really think that we will beat Dallas, but I just have this team, man. They have a way of sometimes just slipping up against a team they should beat. And if we drop one to Houston or San Antonio, it would not surprise me one bit. And I think that's where the loss comes this week, either to Houston or San Antonio. But I'm going with 2-1.
Won 8 in a row. 8 in a row. You're talking about losses. Come on, believe.
They've lost 3 in a row now, Rafa. What are we talking about?
We played well. Good games. We played well against good teams.
The theme for me with this team this year is that they are a mediocre basketball team, an average team. Average teams
only this year, right?
Stick around 500, okay? And so that's the thing. So they are going to win some games, but they're going to lose games they should probably have won. And that's the thought process for me. On that note, hoping for 3-0, but that's my prediction. That is going to wrap up episode number 50 of the WorldWide Knicks podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening, watching now, as we will also be on YouTube here. And if you enjoy the podcast, please make sure to subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or subscribe on YouTube as well. If you're interested in following us on Twitter, we are at WW Knicks Podcast, where we tweet during the games, talk about a variety of things that are going on Knicks Twitter. And thank you again for tuning in for 50 episodes of 3 guys just blabbing on about the Knicks. And hopefully you guys stick around for the next 50 episodes and beyond that. Therapy. There you go. Therapy sessions of the Knicks. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in for WorldWide Knicks. We'll catch you guys next week. And go Knicks.